Greetings, fellow horror fans. Well, guess what? It's October, and you know what that means. That's right. Horror Month 2024 is here. And this month, we're going to be taking a look at the Child's Play franchise. So let's kick things off with 1988's Child's Play. Detective Mike Norris chases fugitive serial killer Charles Lee Ray through the streets of Chicago and into a toy store. Meanwhile, Ray's accomplice, Eddie Caputo, flees the scene. Shot by Norris and dying, Ray performs a voodoo chant to transfer his soul into a nearby Good Guy brand talking doll. The store is struck by lightning, causing an explosion. Shortly after, Norris finds Ray's lifeless body next to the doll. Widow Karen Barkley's 6-year-old son Andy wants a Good Guy doll for his birthday, but she wasn't able to save up enough to afford one. While at her work, her best friend Maggie informs her that a homeless peddler outside has gotten his hands on a Good Guy. After Maggie briefly haggles over the price, Karen excitedly buys the doll and gives it to Andy. Andy is immediately captivated by the doll, who introduces itself as Chucky. That night, Maggie babysits Andy while Karen goes back to work to cover a shift. Chucky comes to life and attacks Maggie, striking her with a hammer and causing her to fall out of a window to her death. Karen returns home to the crime scene where Norris is serving as lead detective. Norris believes Andy may have been involved in Maggie's death. Lindy tries to claim that Chucky may have been involved. Andy later tells his mother that Chucky told him his real name was Charles Lee Ray. The next day, Chucky convinces Andy to skip school and take a train ride to a bad neighborhood. Chucky sneaks to an abandoned home where Caputo is hiding out and kills him in a gas explosion in revenge for abandoning him. Andy is discovered by police and again considered suspect, and Karen is informed he'll be admitted to a psychiatric hospital for observation. Karen returns home with Chucky and discovers that the doll has been moving and speaking on its own without batteries. Chucky violently comes to life and attacks her before escaping. Karen goes to Norris, but he does not believe her story. Karen finds the peddler and asks for more information, but he attempts to sexually assault her. Norris saves her and forces the peddler to admit that he stole the doll from the destroyed toy store where Norris killed Ray. Norris, still skeptical, is later attacked by Chucky. He shoots the doll, whose wound inexplicably bleeds and causes pain. Chucky escapes to his former voodoo instructor John, demanding answers. John informs him that the longer the soul remains in the doll, the more human the doll will become. He refuses to help and is subsequently tortured by Chucky with the voodoo doll, forcing him to reveal that in order to escape the doll's body, he must transfer his soul to the first human he revealed its true identity to, Andy. Chucky leaves for Andy as Karen and Norris arrive and find John bleeding to death. Before dying, John tells them that in order to kill Chucky, they must destroy his heart. Chucky arrives at the psychiatric hospital and kills Andy's doctor with an electroshock therapy device. Andy flees home, and Chucky knocks him out. As Chucky prepares to possess Andy, Karen and Norris arrive. Chucky wounds Norris, but Karen and Andy are able to get the upper hand, setting him on fire. A horribly burned Chucky attacks again, but Karen shoots his head and several limbs off, appearing to kill him. Norris's partner Jack arrives, refuses to believe the trio until Chucky's body bursts through a heat vent and attacks. Norris shoots Chucky's body through the heart, finally killing him. The group leaves to get Norris to the hospital as the traumatized Andy looks back at Chucky's remains. Yeesh. So anyway, let's take a look at the production of this movie, beginning with the development. According to an interview with Mental Floss, screenwriter Don Mancini first conceived of the concept while studying as a literature major at UCLA in 1985. He wrote the first draft of the screenplay while studying film at Columbia University in 1986. Mancini was inspired by the consumerism of the 1980s and the effect of marketing on children based on his experiences with his father, an advertising executive, and the Cabbage Patch Kids of 1983. Mancini's troubled relationship with his own father and his experiences of alienation as a gay man caused him to center the script on a child with a single mother and no father figure. He was also influenced by the Cabbage Patch Kids, Trilogy of Terror, Magic, Poltergeist, the character of Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street, and the Twilight Zone episode Living Doll. The director Tom Holland, not to be confused with the same actor who we all know will love as Spider-Man, has also affirmed that the My Buddy dolls played a role in Chucky's design, with the writers even having to change the name doll from Buddy to Chucky to avoid a lawsuit from Hasbro. Charles Band expressed interest in filming the script at Full Moon Features, and later produced Don Mancini's first film, Cellar Dweller, and the Puppet Master franchise. However, he did not purchase the rights to Mancini's script because it would have been too expensive for a studio to make. Initially, no other studios were interested. However, David Kirshner, who would produce all 7 films in the Chucky series, agreed to fund it. Kirshner wanted to make a film about a killer doll after reading the Dollhouse murders and to branch out from children's entertainment after producing An American Tail. Kirshner sent Mancini's second draft and his drawings of the doll to major studios, and attracted more interest due to the success of An American Tail and its links with Steven Spielberg. United Artists won a bidding war to produce the film after studio president Tony Thomopoulos, who would serve as uncredited executive producer of the film, and MGM/UI Communications chairman Lee Rich realized that it could be a long-running franchise. It could begin a long-running franchise. And now on to the writing. Mancini's original script was titled Batteries Not Included, with the title later changed to Blood Buddy after it was discovered that a different film with the same name was being made. It would have featured a doll filled with fake blood that would allow it to bleed if played with roughly, and would have started coming alive while Andy was asleep after he mixed his own blood with the doll's. The doll would have represented Andy's subconscious rage caused by his parents' divorce and his single mother's frequent absence from home, and would have targeted his enemies. The third act would have the doll try to kill Andy and his mother so that it would not have to go to sleep while Andy was awake. Mancini's original script would have been a whodunit story which dealt with the effect of advertising and television on children. Mancini's original script was also written to toy with the audience a bit longer, making it ambiguous whether Andy or Chucky was the killer. Although Kirshner enjoyed Mancini's script, he demanded extensive rewrites because he feared that having the doll be a manifestation of Andy's subconscious anger would make the protagonist too unsympathetic to audiences. He also believed that parents would not be willing to buy their children a doll that bled. MGM/UA was not confident enough in Mancini to allow him to do the rewrites. Kirshner hired Tom Holland to rewrite and direct the film based upon Steven Spielberg's recommendation from his work on Amazing Stories. Holland came up with the idea that the doll would be possessed by a serial killer. Kirshner named the new character Charles III Ray based on Charles Manson, Lee Harvey Oswald, and James Earl Ray. Ray's accomplice Eddie Caputo would be based on the Hillside Stranglers, Angelo Bueno Jr., and Kenneth Bianchi. However, Holland had trouble coming up with a new plot for the film and how Ray's soul would possess the doll in the story. Holland ultimately quit the project in order to direct Fatal Beauty, and MGM/UA nearly canceled the film. However, Kirshner and Laura Moskowitz hired John Lafayette to complete the new script after responding to the request to the William Morris Agency. Lafayette's rewritten script, Charles III Ray's soul would have transferred to the Buddy doll after being executed by electric chair as the doll was being manufactured on an assembly line. The script featured the doll factory where Buddy was produced, which would be recycled for the second film. Lafayette wanted to direct the film himself, but was turned down because he never directed a feature-length motion picture. The studio sought an experienced director for the production. William Friedkin, Irvin Kershner, Robert Weiss, Joseph Rubin, and Howard Franklin were all approached to direct. Rubin and Franklin were both nearly hired, with Franklin even doing rewrites on the script. It's unknown if any of his contributions made into the film, although he is not credited. Rocky Moore and Annabelle Jankel were attached to co-direct together and started penning rewrites themselves, but were dismissed after Jankel became pregnant. Holland was finally rehired as writer-director after the completion of Fatal Beauty and performed a final extensive rewrite on the script. Holland's screenplay moved the setting from a middle-class suburban home to a working-class urban apartment in either Chicago or New York City. She has career Berkeley from an advertising executive to a department store clerk, identified that Charles Lee Ray had transferred his soul to the doll via voodoo magic with help from Damballa. Although Kirshner and Mancini both disliked the voodoo subplot, those would be the screenplay used for the film. Holland argued that his final rewrite was so extensive that it was completely original from earlier drafts of the film, and attempted to claim sole credit. Lafayette Mancini disputed this, and Writers Guild of America arbitration panel ruled that the three should share credit, with Mancini receiving a special story by credit. Lafayette later accused Holland of rewriting the film merely to claim sole writing credit, and claimed that the previous version's screenplay had been better. He, Holland, and Mancini also disputed which of the three was most responsible for creating the character Chucky for the rest of their lives. And now on to the casting. Auditions for roles in the film began in November 1987 at Hollywood United Methodist Church. Holland immediately cast Chris Sarandon as Detective Norris after working with him in his first film, Fright Night. Catherine Hicks was hired as Karen Barkley on the recommendation of Leonard Nimoy, who worked with her in Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, which is my all-time favorite Star Trek movie, by the way. Holland considered hundreds of children from across the United States for the role of Andy Barkley. Despite his lack of acting experience compared with the other two finalists, Alex Vincent was cast as Andy Barkley in a second audition after he convincingly pretended to forget his lines in order to avoid cursing in front of his mother. John Lithgow was considered to play Charles A. Ray before Brad Dourif was hired after Holland worked with him in Fatal Beauty. Ed Gale was hired to play the body of Chucky, although he only appeared a few times to supplement animatronics. Initially, the voice of Chucky's doll form was intended to be a simple electronic overlay, similar to ordinary toys with sound chips. This was deemed infeasible. John Franklin was hired to record the dialogue, and when Dourif was initially unavailable to record Chucky's voice because of involvement in Mississippi Burning. After negative test screenings, Lafayette and Holland had decided to recast the role only to find Dourif was still unavailable due to his involvement in spontaneous combustion. They cast Jessica Walter to voice Chucky on the basis that Mercedes McCambridge voiced Pazuzu in The Exorcist. Later, Walter's recordings were discarded when Dourif returned to the film. Like Walter, part of Franklin's performance remains in the film, though a scene in which he appears as a human television presenter dressed as a good guy, a scene which was shot after his replacement. And now on to the filming. Principal photography began on January 7, 1988, and wrapped on March 5, 1988, with a budget of $9 to $13 million. Mancini and Lafayette never entered the set and were minimally involved in the production. Although Mancini claimed this was due to the 1988 Writers Guild of America strike, it was more likely because they feared they would not be welcome since the strike did not begin until several days after principal photography ended. Child's Play was filmed on location in Chicago. MGM/UA executives attempted to convince Kirshner to move the film setting to California to cut costs, but declined after becoming dissatisfied with scouting trips to Oakland and San Francisco. The Brewster Apartments, a Chicago landmark located at Diversity Parkway and Pine Grove Avenue, served as the location of the apartment where Andy and Karen lived and is pictured on the film's poster. A studio filming took place at Culver Studios in Culver City, California. The Playland Toy Shop was filmed on 418 South Wabash Avenue, while Eddie's home was filmed in a North Chicago house that the city had condemned to be demolished. The department store where Karen worked at was sold at Carson, Perry Scott and Company building. The location filming was conducted in the winter, with the wind chill reaching as low as 50 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 46 degrees Celsius, forcing the production to rent entire rooms at park renting station wagons near shooting locations and swarming centers. The mental hospital which Andy is detained at later in the film was shot at the abandoned municipal contagious disease hospital in South Lawndale and the Illinois Eastern Hospital for the Insane in Kankakee, Illinois. For that scene, Holland got Vincent to cry by telling him that his parents were getting divorced because of him. Although Holland claimed Vincent knew he was lying and Vincent also defended Holland as an adult, Kirshner criticized Holland's treatment of Vincent and claimed that it at times, quote, bordered on cruelty to children, end quote. Maggie's death was originally going to be electrocution while taking a bath. This idea was abandoned and later used for Tiffany's death in Bride of Chucky. Chucky was controlled by a team of 9 different puppeteers, led by Bronquinkless, who moved Chucky's mouth via radio control, bringing a rig that captures mouth movement. The others were in charge of operating the doll's head, face, and limbs. The Curse of Chucky, Chucky's mouth, led by my lead puppeteer, Tony Garner of Alterian Inc., was now operated via a radio-controlled unit without the need for a rig. The doll himself now required 3 people to bring him to life. For scenes where Chucky had to move around in wide shots, a little person actor in a life-size costume, Ed Gale, will portray Chucky in scenes where the character is walking. The props must enlarged to fit the size of the actor. And now into the visual effects. The film used various ways to portray Chucky, including radio-controlled animatronics operated by up to 9 puppeteers, extras of short stature, and child actors. Kirshner initially hired Chris Wallace to handle the puppetry for the film after work on Gremlins, but he quit under Direct the Fly 2. After Rick Baker declined to act as Wallace's replacement, Kirshner put Kevin Yeager in charge of puppetry for the film. Various animatronics and cosmetics were used for every scene. Throughout the film, Chucky transitions from appearing as a normal toy to appearing more human, with his hairline receding throughout the film. The film created multiple Chucky animatronics, such as the flailing tantrum Chucky, a walking Chucky, and a stationary Chucky. Gil claims that the filmmakers were not sure how well the animatronics would work and shot most scenes with both him and the puppets. The animatronic doll's face was controlled via remote control through a rig capturing facial movement of puppeteer Bronquinkless. For some scenes, Holland used short-statured actors and children such as Ed Gale and Alex Vincent's sister Ashley with forced perspective sets. And now let's take a look at the test screening. The film initially received negative reviews after a 2-hour rough cut was shown to audiences at a test screening. Christian Mancini subsequently cut 25 minutes of the film to reduce the amount of time Chucky was on screen. Something that Kirshner advocated for during production to build suspense in similar fashion to Jaws or Alien. Holland, who repeatedly clashed with Kirshner over Chucky's amount of time on screen and the film's tone during shooting, objected to the cuts and left the production. Mancini and Lafayette were invited back to help re-edit the film. They have also suggested that the test screening flopped due to their use of Franklin as the doll's voice. Though Holland and Lafayette enjoyed Franklin's performance, test audiences felt it was excessively humorous and did not fit the serious tone of the film. Although they Mancini found Walter's tone more suitably menacing, decided she was unable to convey the humor intended for the character. The lines were redubbed with Dorff's voice. The cut footage, showing production skills and the film's script, would have featured Charles A. Ray stalking a drunk woman as the human, only to discover it to be Mike Norris on an undercover sting operation, and he showed Chucky around his room and finding a photograph of his deceased father. John healing an infant through a voodoo ritual, and Chucky unsuccessfully trying to break into his room at the mental hospital, a tricky mentally ill girl named Mona into carrying him into the ward. The script also featured an alternate ending in which Chucky is stabbed by Andy with a knife mounted on a radio-controlled car and had his face and legs melted with a squirt gun filled with Drano, in addition to being lit on fire and repeatedly shot by Mike and Karen. Chucky would have been seemingly killed by being overpowered by Jack and several police officers. Storing Chucky's remains in an evidence room, another cop would have displayed Jack's assertion that the doll was alive. After they left, Chucky's disembodied arm would have come to life to swat a fly. And on to the music. The score was composed by Joseph Renzetti, which featured a collection of electronic and orchestral elements. Although UA and Holland had planned for the film to have a fully orchestral score, Renzetti wanted an electronic soundtrack. Renzetti's colleague Craig Harris ultimately composed most of the music on a synthesizer, and they converted the MIDI to output musical notes for the orchestra to play. Portions of the soundtrack were released on vinyl in 1989 and was later followed up by another vinyl pressing by Waxworks Records that featured the complete score for the original master tapes. According to music supervisor David Chackler, Renzetti composed the score in just 3 weeks. And finally, let's take a look at some controversies surrounding this film. During the initial release, A large crowd of protesters at the main entrance of MGM calling for a ban on the film. Because, they claimed it would incite violence in children. Local news reporters from 2 TV stations were broadcasting live from the scene. The producer, David Kirshner, was watching the demonstration on TV and was disturbed. Jeffrey Hilton, who had been working in Kirshner's office at MGM, indicated that he could quell the disturbance in 10 minutes. When Kirshner was watching from the safety of his office, Hilton spoke to the group's leader and shook his hand. The group initially dispersed, much to the chagrin of the newscasters. Hilton did not reveal to Kirshner whether it had been a threat or simple diplomacy that saved the day. Tom Holland further recalled in 2023, quote, "I got a box of letters from school children in Great Britain. There was an outcry against the movie where I was criticized for making children afraid of their playthings, especially the dolls, and how horrible I was." End quote. Another controversy took place in March 1989 when the film was due to be released on VHS for the first time, and a 30-second television advertisement was made to promote it. In the commercial, Chucky comes to life and begins killing, pursuing an off-screen victim, committing aggressive acts and speaking in a threatening manner. ABC and CBS pulled the commercial from primetime because viewers, especially parents, began complaining about it being too frightening, thus it only aired at late hours. The ad also continued airing on NBC and MTM, according to Herb Fisher, the then Senior Vice President of Domestic Sales and Marketing for MGM/UA. Hilton's diplomacy notwithstanding, the film series is plagued with accusations of inciting violence in children. Jaws 3 was cited as the inspiration for 2 murders, which took place in the United Kingdom in December 1992 and February 1993, respectively. The murder of Suzanne Capper and the murder of James Bulger. In the Suzanne Capper case, the 16-year-old was forced to listen to recordings of the gang leader repeating catchphrase, "I'm Chucky, wanna play?" Holland, in response to both murders, defended the film, saying that viewers of horror movies could only be influenced by their content if they were unbalanced to begin with. Yeah, I could definitely see where it was coming from with that, so yeah. So overall, I really do enjoy this movie, and again, while the Child's Play franchise is not my favorite horror franchise, it's definitely up there with Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and Halloween. So yeah. So overall, I give Child's Play 4 Chucky dolls out of 5. Anyway, tune in more as we to the next film in the series, Child's Play 2. So until then, let me try to use the outro for this one. I know. So until then, in the words of Charles Lee Ray, give me the power, I beg of you!